Hey everybody, Wave 3 News meteorologist Brian Good with today's edition of Snow Talk on this busiest travel day of the year. And yes, the storm on the East Coast is capturing a lot of the headlines. We're going to talk more about that today on the 5 o'clock news, so make sure to tune in for that. I want to focus more on the system coming in for tonight here locally, and then how things are looking into early next week, as there is some new data rolling in, and I want to at least share that with you guys. All right, as we always do, the update on the snowfall, that has not changed, holding steady at 3.3. As far as what's on the maps, looking ahead, anything wintry, we got tonight's system, half a bar, if that. Early next week, I've added that in at a half a bar. But it may not exactly be snow. And we've got temperatures now climbing into the lower 40s here in Louisville. We've got some sunshine, some high thin clouds passing overhead, and that's really about it so far. This is the system we're watching, though, back into Missouri and Iowa. So you get a little swirly cue that's happening over areas not far from Des Moines. This is an interesting setup. This is the actual clipper. It started up here. It's tracked into this area. It is going to dig to the south and southwest and then fade away. By the time it's to eastern Tennessee, it should be off the map altogether because this big guy here on the East Coast will pretty much still have its energy away. Now, what's going to be interesting for tonight is this area here. See how it's up and down at the moment. It is vertical. As that low pressure, the core of it, digs into West Kentucky, this area will pivot and follow with it, staying on the north side the whole time, which means this band that is vertical now will begin to turn. It'll turn even more and then become nearly horizontal by the time it heads into Tennessee and then fades away. So it's that pivot that is going to be crucial, because when it turns around up to the north and becomes horizontal, how far is it going to pivot upward? Just to the parkways or up to I-64? Or even further than that? I don't see that being the case. But there is a chance it's going to get awful close to I-64. But a better chance for the parkways for this little pivoting. Also, the area that sees the main turn take place. Here it is now. Again, it's going to turn right in through here. So where it does that pivot, that is where it's going to be snowing the longest in that area as it tries to turn its direction. So that could be the sweet spot, if you will, for amounts of 1 to maybe 2 inches of snow out of the system. Otherwise, the more east you are and the more north you are, those amounts will drop off significantly because the system, again, will be weakening as it heads into eastern Tennessee. Second factor will be accumulations. Obviously, temperatures playing a crucial role on that. We've warmed up in the 40s here locally. There are 36 now in St. Louis. It's not accumulating there. Too warm for that. And for us, it'll be interesting to see what we're going to be when it arrives. We should be above freezing certainly before midnight, but you can get accumulating snow above freezing. When you get around 34, 35, it can stick, especially wet snow, grass areas, rooftops, the cars. It can do that. We've seen it happen many times. For the roads, we'll just stay wet. And by the time it really gets cold enough to get us to the freezing mark, we're only talking about 30 to 32, and in most cases, your slick spots are only limited to bridges and overpasses. Main roads should still stay wet. So as far as impact goes from this, roadways, I don't see it being a big deal other than wet roads. And maybe some slush in that area that pivots here that gets a heavier amount. You may have some slush that develops in the roads, but that's really about the only issue I can see really developing out of the system. Now, snow amounts, again, will be high depending on the location of that pivot when it turns horizontal, and again, where you are at that pivot zone. I still think that's going to be located west of Louisville. For Louisville itself, we're going to be, right on the edge here. There's still a chance it could reach us this far north, but it's going to be a close call. But if you're in E-Town and Bardstown, you have a better chance. But keep in mind, you're going to see it start off as rain. See how this is already turned into rain on the bottom part here. It will be rain when it arrives later. But you can get it to go to snow if you can get it to come down hard enough, because the air above our heads right now is pretty chilly air actually right over us. So if it can come down hard enough, that the heavier precip will actually pull it down that colder air and can change over to that wet snow that again can accumulate on grassy areas. So that's the way that system is looking on the radar. This is our rapid refresh model. It can only see out to about midnight. Here it is, 8 o'clock tonight. Here's Louisville. You see it's stretching the rain out in our western counties. As we head toward midnight, you see it's starting to do that pivot now, becoming more horizontal across the Commonwealth. And it's hinting that a few raindrops may work their way into I-64. But you see what's happening here. See that green, where it's heavier rain coming down, but it turns to blue right in that zone. That's where you're going to see it. You can easily go from heavy rainfall to big flakes of snow in a matter of seconds. And that certainly could be the case for the areas that pick up that heavy precip band, wherever that's going to lie later on for tonight. So we'll be watching that. The RPM model, here's the latest on the amounts. It's aiming for southern counties again for an accumulating potential. Again, it's not too excited about it, the amount potential there. The NAM has been the most aggressive so far. It's picking up the idea of heavier banding that will take place. They could switch you over from that heavy rain to big wet flakes. So that could be in our southern counties, could get the nice little coating of snowfall. And the GFS model is by far the least excited of how things will play out. It does even give a slight measurable snow here in Louisville, but again, mainly focusing off to the south. The Schreff model, another short-range model for Louisville. Interestingly enough, the average here for Louisville, if you look at the scale, is above a half inch. Between a half inch and a full inch of snow is the average of all the different ideas the model has for amounts. It does peak out close to 2 inches here at the top of your screen, but again, the average is less than an inch on that model. And the reason why is it thinks that the pivot zone and becoming horizontal is going to take place on I-64, not to the south. But right now it is the only model that is saying that. So its credibility is not very high right now. We'll keep an eye on it. Not a big storm, but I know for snow lovers, anything that can turn the ground white for Thanksgiving, you're going to love it. And I'm not ruling that out yet for a lot of our area. So we'll see how it plays out. Okay, after it goes by, the Arctic air moves out fairly quick. And this is modified Arctic air. It's over. It's nothing brutal. We warm up drastically, 50s and 60s, as we head into Saturday and into Sunday. I mean, quite the jump we're going to have here from Thanksgiving and the day after to the weekend. I mean, it's about a 20-degree jump for us for highs. But here's the interesting part into Monday and Tuesday. We're going to have Arctic air that is going to attempt to attack us as we get into early next week. The models have been varying on how much of a dig it can have because the NAO is not overly negative at all. In fact, it's fairly neutral. So there's not a lot of signal here for the blocking pattern to really allow this to dig down to the south. So instead, it's a more fast zonal flow. These air masses, these cold air masses, try to dig down, but they get pushed off the east rapidly. What is crucial about this for us is that when they do that slight dip downward, could it be just enough to get us to that freezing mark of the ground, even though this will be rain? Yeah, you know what that means. The potential for maybe some freezing rain. This will be Monday night into Tuesday. This is the GFS regular model run. It has the freezing line right on I-64, by the way, when some precip could be falling. And we're getting around the edge of E-moisture. Here's the Canadian. Just came in. Fairly similar look. It has the Arctic air, again, just kind of bumping to our north, but it's chugging along. But how close it bumps up to us, the big question. It does put the freezing line. You see it there listed in that white solid line across southern Indiana and northern Kentucky. Awful close. I mean, it's going to be a close call. I'm not sold yet to go with a freezing rain forecast, but if this trend continues, it's going to be a very close call, especially for southern Indiana. But it all depends because, yeah, it'll be colder in Indiana, but that moisture only gets up to about Kentucky. So it's where these two meet, and that could very well be right along the river. But it's still just a chance. Just kind of a heads up. That is something we are watching carefully as we get future data runs here on this. Now, the experimental GFS is faster with that colder air. It brings it in Monday morning. And it's saying sleet, snow, and freezing rain in northern Kentucky. There's the freezing line in red. It goes across Washington County, dips down to downtown Louisville, and then back into Oldham County. And that's why it's giving more of a sleet profile than freezing rain because of how that freezing line does wiggle here across northern Kentucky. But you can see there's still a lot of debate on how that's going to play out. Now, looking ahead, the jet stream, this is the European. You see these little bumps here that are happening. Again, this is the polar jet that it's being picked out on, and that's the core of the cold air. It rolls on top of us, then rolls off to the east, and we see a couple of those early next week. Then after that, signs are there that we're going to have a warm push of air and a wet pattern, thunderstorms potentially, and as we head into the end of the first week here of December. The only thing that's interesting is the GFS is coming in, and it's got the polar jet slightly more to the south for the end of this, the first week of December, which would keep the freezing rain battle zone and snow battle zone a little further to the south, too close to us. We'll have to watch that for the end of the first week of December. I'm still going with rain and a warmer pattern, but it may not be as warm as first expected, and that cold air may be a lot closer to us than first expected, so that's going to leave some huge room for error when it comes to the extended forecast. As I've said before on Facebook especially, tread lightly after day 4 on an extended forecast with this kind of a pattern. You will see varying solutions because this is now we're getting to a progressive pattern. Things can change fast on the model data, so we got to carefully trend the extended part of the forecast, especially the 14-day. All right. Short-term issues, though, will be our system for tonight, and then we'll watch and see if we have anything to worry about early next week. But until then, it does look warm for this weekend. Get outside and enjoy it, even if it rains. Enjoy it.